you hear me all right, Miss Hawkins?
Ma'am?
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just Lane, and I'm going to be trying to sort out some of this today. So mostly I think you're going to listen, and then when I ask, I'll see what you have to offer too. But Mr. Norris is here today to speak on behalf of your son as well, so I think that will be helpful for us to figure out what's going on, all right?
Thank you.
I appreciate you being on the phone. I'm sorry we couldn't have you here in person. I really do better in person.
Uh-huh.
If you sit tight and if you can't hear, speak up and yell, and we'll try to fix that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, Ms. Magnus, if you'll just present your case a little bit, tell us what's going on, and then we'll go from there. Just do an overview, if I will. Okay? All right, Your Honor. Briefly, the hospital did file a petition for healthcare placement, transfer, admission, and discharge order on January the 2nd regarding Mr. Young. Mr. Young, as I understand it, at one time was in a state hospital, was then, upon the closure of that facility, was then moved to the Lookout Mountain personal care home, relatively close to his mother. And then in the summer, I think specifically July of 2013, he was moved to Benchmark, a crisis facility. He stayed there longer than I think any of those folks anticipated, and then on October the 8th, he had some medical needs that needed to be addressed, and he was brought to Northeast Georgia Medical Center, where he has remained since October the 8th. For the treating physicians, he was ready for discharge as of November the 3rd, 2013. Ms. Farmer, Jamie Farmer, in the hospital's case management department, has been working pretty much since his admission on appropriate discharge. And she located a facility back in the latter part of October that was willing to accept Mr. Young. He was not quite ready for discharge at that point, but Ms. Hawkins, and as I understand it, then Dr. Speed were in agreement with, I think it was Pleasant View Nursing Home Facility in Metter at that time. And then at the last minute, Ms. Hawkins said that she found some negative ratings on the internet and no longer wanted her son to go there. At which point Ms. Farmer then went back and started trying to find a place. As of November the 26th, I believe it is, Goodwill Nursing Home in Macon said that they had a bed, they were an appropriate facility. Ms. Farmer has been in contact with Ms. Hawkins and Dr. Speed from the Georgia Advocacy Office a great deal as to where we are, that the nursing home facility was appropriate, that Lookout Mountain, where he came from, the personal care home, to have him back in the community, said we are not able to take Joe back. Ms. to discharge him to an appropriate place, and we are met with resistance and whatnot. So that's why we're here. We don't know what else to do. Ms. Hawkins is his next of kin. She's, his mother, and then we have Ms. Speed, and as I understand it, the objection is that it's too far away, and then from Ms. Speed or Dr. Speed is that it's not the least restrictive placement. So that's what we have.
Okay.
And I have a farmer here that can address all of the efforts that the hospital's made, and Mr. Jared McConnell is the director of risk management, and he can address any issues that need to be addressed or the hospital representative.
All right, thank you. So, Mr. Norris, you have filed today. Just give me just a brief overview of what your objection is and why we're going to need to continue this for you to sort out your objection more fully.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
Thank you. I'll say briefly that this is the latest chapter in an unfolding saga, effectively, of how our community-based systems are not contemplating people like Jim Young, that hospitals are stuck dealing with this problem and not having any good options. So I feel for the hospital, I do. I know exactly what you're talking about. I know the predicament you are in. But
why I know that was chosen as an appropriate place is because they do have the psychiatric component, because they do have a psychiatric unit, and they can offer those services, and that's why Goodwill stood out above and beyond the others, and why it was perhaps pursued more heavily. And so I think the farmer can address that certainly a lot better than I can, but I think that certainly the mental health component was a great piece of the puzzle here. And so, you know, our standpoint is, yes, it's Macon, and, you know, but the other place that, as I understand it, Dr. Speed and Ms. Hawkins were amenable to was the Pleasant View facility in Metter, and I don't know how that for evidently online, it doesn't have good ratings, was any different. I mean, it's a nursing facility. So I don't think it's further away. It is, absolutely. It's not a matter of convenience. It's different. It's prohibitive. It's down.
So, can I ask, because y'all are at an issue that's so far down the road, like I haven't even gotten there. I'm about to take this exit right here. And I need to ask, Ms. Hawkins, are you still there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. I hope we haven't lost you and all of that. I just have a couple of questions for you, if you don't mind answering, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you taking responsibility for making decisions for your son's health care?
I have been.
And have you at any time said you didn't want to make those decisions?
Well, I've always made his decisions. I have been doing this for almost 40 years.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's been very difficult. It's been very trying, and it's had a lot of trauma with me and Joe. And I have kept up with him, visited him, and the family has when they've gotten a chance. And a lot of them, you know, as time went on, they have to work. They have to pay taxes. And it's a really, really sad story of what has happened with Joe and concerning me and him and the family. Joe did not deserve what he got. It was not my decision to send him to Gainesville. I was not notified. I visited him often up here in Fort Oglethorpe at Horizon. I worked with them. I had Christmas dinner and Thanksgiving dinner with Joe up there. I took friends, his family went to see him up there. And they sneaked him out of here one night and took him down there and didn't notify me and called me after they got him to the crisis home. Well, other than that, they did not call me or notify me when they put him in Hutchinson Hospital here in Fort Oglethorpe back in around June of last year. Well, I went to the Horizon checking on him, and he was in the hospital. And the manager was standing outside on her cell phone and chatting, and she said, "Oh, he's not here. He's been in the hospital 3 days."
Ms. Hawkins, where are you physically? What city do you live in?
I live in Lafayette, Georgia.
What county is that?
Walker County.
I'm sorry?
Walker County.
Okay.
So, it is not Joe's fault. It is not my fault. And it's not the hospital's fault. The reason we're in position that we're in, it is the mental health's fault and all this stuff that's happened to Joe, of all the abuse that he went through that he did not deserve in the institutions. He went through some horrific abuse for years. Okay? I had the Human Rights Agency on him in the 80s. They said that was one of the worst cases of abuse they'd ever found, and he came out in Atlanta Constitution newspaper.
I'm certainly sorry to hear that. I'm just getting in on this story. Apparently there is a long, long history, and I have missed the first half of the book.
Oh, yes.
I'm trying to catch up, but the way I see it, my job is very, very, very narrow. And I just need to decide if this petition actually falls under the statute. And I'm really inclined to believe it doesn't, even before walking in here today, just having read. So I'm going to give Ms. Magnus a chance to explain to me why she believes we're under the statute, unless Mr. Norris pushes hard that he wants this continued to be able to come up with why we're not. It would suit me fine if we could solve it today, but I do understand that they're,
Well, could I
they've come
say...
in late on this ball game as far as this portion, and this was really intended to be an informal conference rather than a hearing. The code is desperately lacking as to where we're supposed to go and how we're supposed to do this. And I'm kind of making it up as I go along. But at the bottom line, I know as a judge that I need to make sure that everybody has a fair chance to be heard before I make any decision that would violate or infringe upon someone's rights.
Yes,
so,
ma'am.
as I make it up, I want to make sure everybody has a fair chance to be heard. So,
Could I say something else?
yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Okay. Like I said, it was not my decision. It was not Joe's decision to be where he's at. I am his mother. I love my son very much. And I feel like that if he is transferred to where he cannot be or see his mother, and they will not, in a nurse, I have worked in nursing homes. I do know what goes on in nursing homes. I know. I've visited in nursing homes. I entertained in nursing homes for 35 years. Okay, I know all the ins and outs about nursing homes. And I want my son close to me. And if they could find him a facility close to me, I would be more than happy where I could drive and get there locally to sit with my son and work with him with some help of some kind of medical facility here.
Okay.
You understand where I'm coming from?
Yes,
Because
ma'am,
I feel like if he goes to Macon, Georgia, it's a death sentence for me and him both. He's going to be down there. I'll never see my son again because they have told me so many untruths through the mental health system. They have transitioned so much till I do not trust any of them anymore. And they've gave me a good reason for that. Okay?
Okay. Well, I made notes about what your position is, and right now I need to decide if I'm going to allow the hospital petition to even go forward or if I'm just going to dismiss it right now. If I were to dismiss it, that would mean that they had no authority to move him anywhere without your consent. So if you hold on and listen, I'll make sure that you get another chance to talk. But Mr. Norris, do you have any problem with me letting Ms. Magnus go ahead as to why this petition should not be dismissed based on the grounds that he does have somebody out there? He has a representative. And as I see the code, it says this is allowed if there is not a representative. And I've read this code section backwards and forwards trying to make sure that I know exactly what the code says. And if you have a different take on it, I'm more than welcome to let you have a chance. But I need to make sure that you don't want this continued till a different day. That's my first issue.
I understand, Your Honor, and I appreciate your frankness. I don't have a problem with arguing the statute. And I think I understand and agree there's we are on this narrow issue, and let's go ahead and proceed.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Your Honor, in this situation, and certainly I've filed these petitions before, and you're right. I mean, most of the time there is nobody that can be found to give any sort of consent or address the issue at all. In OCGA Section 36A 6, certainly the list of those who are authorized to consent are set forth, and in subsection 5 it says any adult, 6, any parent or such person's adult child. And so we know that Mr. Young's mother is Margaret Hawkins. I wholeheartedly agree with that. However, in subsection B, it says any of those persons who are authorized above, so that would be Ms. Hawkins, and empowered to consent under that section, they must act in good faith. And here, Your Honor, because of the situation, Joe is in a hospital. He has been in the hospital for now over 2 months longer. He was ready for discharge on November the 3rd, and now we are here January the 14th. He is still in the most restrictive environment in a place that Ms. Hawkins cannot get to, and as I understand it, the objection is because the facility, the only facility that is an option at this point in the state, is in Macon, and that is too far for Ms. Hawkins to get. We are looking at this from Mr. Young's standpoint. Mr. Young is being contained in a hospital where he is subjected to all sorts of viruses and diseases, and he is stuck in a hospital bed now with no one to come see him. And so because of that, it's our position that Ms. Hawkins is not acting in good faith with respect to Joe, her son. Certainly, it's a major inconvenience for her if he were moved to Macon, which is further away from her home. But as far as Joe goes, it's our position that she's not acting in good faith, and therefore she has, in essence, waived her ability to make the decision here. So that is our position, and that's why we've operated under this specific case section. All right.
Do you have any response you would like to offer?
Yes, Your Honor. As to good faith arguments, I mean, I get that the hospital is a bad spot, but the statute is what it is, and I don't believe that they've satisfied the requirements. The good faith argument, it looks at what the patient would have wanted had the patient been able to consent to circumstances. Or if the patient's preferences are unknown, which such person believes the patient would have wanted had the patient been able to consent to circumstances. Under 31, 36 days, and I think that in your questioning of Ms. Hawkins, I think she's been quite clear that she has been engaged, she's been present. In many respects, she hasn't been provided information that she otherwise should have been given as this mother, as this healthcare physician. And, what we have is a disagreement over the decision about where Joe should be. I think one of the things about the facilities, one facility to the other, you're still going to be stuck in a bed. You're still going to be subject to the same nosocomial infections, first of those things that be in the hospital are also going to be in the nursing facility. The big difference here is location. Gainesville, which is not great, but it's reasonably located to Lafayette, versus Macon, which, as far as, on the other side of the moon, relative to the geography of the state. And I don't think that the facility satisfied the requirement to show that they don't have somebody who either is unable to make that decision or is waiving it. Ms. Hawkins is quite able to, again, while I appreciate the hospital's position, I just don't think that the statute allows them to do what they want to do as far as discharging. Actually, I would point out, Your Honor, too, that in the under 31, 36, 87, it talks about the review of the petition and the affidavit, and then if all the necessary information is provided, and one of those things that has to be found by you is that there's an absence of any person consent to such transfer under 31, 36, 86, which, as I pointed out, Your Honor, we don't have because clearly this office present.
Yeah, that's where my hang-up is too, is that 7D, where from everything presented, I feel like Ms. Hawkins has not waived her right to make this decision. And I honestly don't know what y'all do. I mean, to be quite frank, I don't know what the hospital does, because you can't keep him and you can't get rid of him, and I don't know what you do. But that's outside, thankfully. Thankfully today, that's outside the realm of my jurisdiction. And I feel like I have to dismiss this petition because I don't feel like it meets that legal standard. It's so narrow, and it seems like there should be some sort of procedural rules as to what should happen next. It does seem like someone just forgot to attach the last few pages is almost how it feels to me. But as it is today, I'm going to dismiss this petition, and y'all have to seek a different way. Maybe Ms. Hawkins and y'all can find a place that's more appropriate. You know, she's right on the state line there, and I don't know what the rules are, but it was making me wonder if you could go on the other side and go to Tennessee. Was there a place there? Because that would be significantly closer. But that's just me talking. Really, Ms. Hawkins, I'm going to dismiss this petition, and that means that the hospital is not allowed to send your son to this Macon facility unless you consent.
Well, I thank you so much, and God bless you for that.
Well, I'm just following the law because that's my job, and hopefully you can work with the hospital and figure out a better place, and hopefully somebody can get involved maybe from the state and find the appropriate place. But as it stands today, I'm just going to have to dismiss this petition.
Thank you so much, Judge.
You're welcome. Is there anything else from anyone?
No, Your Honor.
Right. And we'll be adjourned, and I'm going to hang up for you, Miss Hawkins, all right?
Okay, and I pray everything will work out for everybody, okay?
Yes, ma'am. Bye-bye.
Bye.